Aha! We've got you, Sylvanas, at last.
Don't look at us with those big blue eyes, Sylvie. You are our prisoner, and finally, you are going to face justice for your crimes.
Yeah, or at least you will as soon as you've chosen your covenant.
Yes, good point. The jailer is gone, and the Maw is basically dissolved in patch 9.15, so you're going to need to choose a covenant. Good point, Evie.
Which will you choose? This is Shadowlands. You can't not have a covenant.
Can't I? Burn it. Burn it!
I've got to admit that's not quite how I saw the ripcord being pulled, but here we are.
Knowledge is power.
Hello, Internet. Taliesin here, and welcome to another episode of the weekly reset, Taliesin and Evitel's Wondrous Wisdom Show, in a week where I don't really know how to put this, and what I really don't want to do is fall into internet hyperbole, you know, but also, all of our prayers have been answered. Unless, of course, your prayers were for Activision Blizzard to stop acting like absolute arseholes to their employees, obviously, because at the very top, they clearly still absolutely are. The state of California now adding charges of obstruction to their harassment and discrimination lawsuit against the company, alleging that AB's Human Resources Department have been shredding documents related to the investigation, which, again, if true, is just another layer of almost cartoonish villainy for the head honchos of the corporation that would be genuinely funny were it not so utterly horrifying, because it's actually real life and hurts real people. Activision Blizzard King are a horrible corporate monster. You should never forget that. As I've said before, though, the ones who really suffer at ABK's hands are their employees. And from Blizzard's team too, who make World of Warcraft at least, there have been some heartening signs that workers are starting to feel more empowered and that some elements of workplace practice might be shifting. And it's genuinely not unrelated to WoW making all of your dreams come true. Unless, of course, you dreamt of having the AoE cap removed, which you probably did. But stop talking about that, okay? You're killing my buzz. The TLDR is that patch 9.1.5 is hitting the PTR this week, and with it are a range of changes to the game that go well beyond the usual 0.5 fare of tweaks and cosmetics, although some of them are that, and into the realms of full system, I was going to say redesign, but no, redesign is what happened in 8.2 in BFA. No, this is a system undesign. And to properly tell you everything about it, I'm going to need the help of my 9.1.5 Lamp of Magical Wishes, which I'm going to be giving a good old rub to reveal what wishes have been granted. Lamp of Magic Wishes, make Activision Blizzard King a decent company to work for and bring all perpetrators of harassment and discrimination to justice. Okay, it's a magical lamp for granting video game wishes, not a miracle lamp for changing systemic corporate culture. Oh, Magic 9.1.5 lamp, I wish to get rid of Conduit Energy forever. Holy shit, it worked. The system has simply not played out the way we hoped it would. We should have heeded community feedback and taken a different approach a year ago. We are removing it entirely. Yes, conduits will now be freely swappable without any restrictions, apparently. Now, whether this means literally no restrictions, or whether you'll have to be in a rest area, like with talents, or whether you'll have to be at your Covenant soul-binding place, remains to be seen. But the headline is that not only is one of the most vocally despised parts of Shadowlands dead and gone, but Blizz offered a literal apology for it too. Ain't no one gonna be mourning the loss of Conduit Energy, because either you fell into the "this doesn't affect me at all" category, or the "this ruins my gameplay experience every actual day of my entire life" category. And either way, it is good news. And I've got to admit, I am surprised by this one, but one of those good surprises, like when you see your old bully on Facebook, but they are sad and lonely now. Let's go for a really left field one. Oh, all-powerful 9.1.5 lamp, I wish to pull the ripcord. well, fish me. Once you've reached a high enough renown threshold, you will thereafter be able to freely switch among any of the 4 covenants without cooldown or restriction, as well as use cosmetic rewards that you have earned from one covenant, even if you are currently a member of a different one. The ripcord got pulled, fam. Whereas not being as simple as just being able to pick your covenant ability as if they were a new row of talents, this will allow players, if they really want, to switch between different covenants for different individual bosses in a raid night. Although it has to be said, that would be an almighty faff, as presumably the process to switch will still involve signing up with your new team in Oribos and then heading to your new covenant sanctum to seal the deal. But it's possible. More realistically, players will be able to switch to one covenant for raid, one for Mythic Plus, and one for PvP content, and only when they need to. So if there is a covenant that they spiritually have affinity with, they can spend most of their time and progress in that one. It's unclear how renown progression is going to work. If you're still only getting 2 renown per week, but with 4 different renown trees to progress, Blizzard have hinted that they will greatly increase the amount of catch-up renown from other activities, so it shouldn't be too hard to keep up with multiple covenants, if that's even something that you want to do. Again, remains something to be seen in the PTR. For me, this is great, mostly because it means I can progress all 4 covenants on my main. As someone who is mostly focusing on one character this expansion, it gives me 4 times as many things to be working towards, and I like that. That's the kind of player I am, you know? And I think it's okay to be like, oh, I'm in the right covenant for raid, but this covenant is better for Mythic Plus, so I need to go and max out that one so I can swap over when I need to. I think it's okay to have a little bit of work connected to that, because the reward is absolutely worth it, which makes the work fulfilling and fun, in my opinion. And the fact that you can use any of the cosmetic appearances you collect along the way, well, that is just baller. That's a restriction I wasn't expecting to be lifted until next expansion. And if you think that keeping 2 or 4 covenants up to date sounds like a nightmare for alts, well, frankly, you're probably right too. Both the covenant switching and the use of cosmetic rewards will also apply to alts once the renown threshold is reached on one character. To suggest that yes, the ability to swap covenants will be account-wide, but it will not be the case that your renown progress will suddenly become account-wide. So yeah, currently, and again, we'll have to wait for the PTR in like a day or 2 to be sure, but currently, it looks like if you want all of the renown benefits for your main or your alts when you switch covenant, then you are going to have to grind each renown tree separately on each character. And this despite the fact that completing a covenant campaign on one character will allow alternate characters the ability to skip that same covenant campaign, earning the renown and a 3rd soulbind unlock immediately without needing to replay the full narrative arc, which is undoubtedly another good quality of life change. But I've seen a lot of people interpret that as meaning your renown will automatically start at 32, the amount it would be if you had completed the campaign. My read is that when you get to each new chapter on your renown path, you just click I've heard this tale before and automatically receive the 1 renown, like you would if you had played through the 1 quest. Again, I guess we'll have to wait and see, but either way, it does certainly seem like each renown tree will have to be progressed individually on each individual character from at least rank 32 onwards. If we are still doing feedback, Blizz, how about account-wide sanctum progress, eh? Of course, lifting the main restrictions of covenants is something that large portions of the player base have been crying out for since before Shadowlands even went live. So this is another one to put in the same "we fished up guys, we should have listened, I'm so sorry" category alongside Conduit Energy, right? Well, not quite, or at least not according to Blizz. When it comes to covenant switching, millions of players experienced Shadowlands for the first time through the lens of their covenant of choice, and that would not have been possible had they carried less weight from the outset. Nevertheless, after the conclusion of the Chains of Domination campaign, the covenants are united against the jailer, and revisiting player feedback in that context has led us to reevaluate our approach. So Blizz saying there, they were not wrong to not pull the ripcord before the expansion, which is something that a lot of players will scoff at, and honestly, fair enough. Many will say that there is no point pulling the ripcord now if you've already hit the ground. That's true, but I have to say that purely from my own point of view, and not trying to speak for anyone else, because I know most of you will not agree with me, and that's fine, but I'm actually with Blizzard on this one. I enjoyed the rigidity of covenants, restrictions and all, and I am glad that I was able to play under that system from the beginning of Shadowlands. I enjoyed it, and I enjoy the idea of changing it up now now. I made those feelings clear before Shadowlands launched, while the ripcord movement was in full swing, even though I also acknowledge that most players seem to disagree with me, and so Blizz should probably pull the ripcord, right? And from the point of view of having a happier player base overall, they should probably have taken my advice, right? But purely from my own personal Shadowlands experience, I'm glad that I got a patch and a half with those restrictions, because I found it fun, and I'm glad that they are being changed hereafter, because that change sounds like it'll be fun at this point. I actually totally agree with the blue post here. I'm not saying anyone else should feel the same way. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I'm just telling you my own experience. And just in case you've forgotten, quick reminder, I was an advocate of pulling the ripcord even though I didn't want them to. Oh, magic lamp of 9.1.5. I wish for an opening more scenario skip for alts. Players who complete the introduction in the Maw on one character will be able to speak to High Lord Darian Mograine in the capital cities to skip it on alternative characters on their account. Okay, Magic Lamp, I know you traditionally only grant 3 wishes per person, but come on man, it's been a really shitty year. Do me a solid here, okay? Let's make it easier to level alts across the board, yeah? A variety of improvements will be introduced in support of a smoother experience leveling alternative characters, such as an additional rank of Heirloom upgrades, and improvements to Threads of Fate, such as the addition of Torghast as an option, and renown gains for completing bonus objectives. See, I told you renown be easier, and Torghast leveling is something I have been especially fixated on since beta, so yes, this is very good news. That stupid tower is perfect for leveling because you're in combat the whole time, and that is a really fun way to level a new class, especially if you weren't super familiar with it before. I wouldn't be surprised if this actually turns out to be the most pure and enjoyable form of Torghast content for many players. Yes, this is great, thank you. Oh, magic lamp of goodness, I wish for playable Tuskar. Okay, fine. Can we at least have new customization options for allied races, even though you said that definitely wouldn't be a thing? Yes, we already had a taste of this news and our first hint that 9.15 PTR was imminent last week when we were promised new customizations for Lightforged Draenei, Void Elves, and Nightborn, as well as new travel forms, soul shapes, and critter soul shapes. Which means that finally the Chonky Cat dream looks like it will become a reality. And honestly, if Chonky Cat form had been the beginning and end of 9.15 news, that would still have been brilliant news. The fact that you get to sit around in rest areas as Chonky Cat, and don't forget, that means anyone, because there's absolutely nothing to stop anyone sliding into Night Fae whenever they feel like it and collecting all those forms. The fact that that is only a footnote to all of the other changes just goes to show how exciting these changes are. But I see you, Chonky Cat. I appreciate you, and I cannot wait to become you as my final form, just like I always knew I would. We are still yet to see any of the new travel forms, and what exactly new means, but we did get a preview of some of the allied race customizations, and yes, Lightforged have new skin colors and hairstyles and cool Hellboy filed down horns and horn chains. Yes, Nightborn have facial hair and, oh my goodness, narrow snarky eyes, so they actually, you know, look a bit like Nightborn from the actual game, though. That's seriously a massive deal, that your Nightborn can now actually look like a Nightborn from the game, World of Warcraft. That's great, but the big news is that Void Elves are getting 5 new hair colors, which, along with the extra stuff they got at the beginning of the expansion, means that playable Alliance High Elves are now actually genuinely a thing. And that's actually a pretty big deal for a lot of people, and it's just a good thing, so thank you. Okay, Magic Lamp of Extreme Satisfaction, I wish for just the merest hint at legendary recycling, mentioned in one line of a roadmap graphic without any other details, so we can all sweat and speculate about exactly what it means and how it will work for potentially weeks before any of us actually know. Thank you, that's exactly what I asked for. You are a good lamp. Okay, finally, I wish for Legion Timewalking. But I also wish that Legion Timewalking dungeons had a Mythic Plus option. And I know there's no holy shit! delve back into Legion dungeons with Legion Timewalking and take on the challenges within, including access to Legion Mythic Plus dungeons. This event will run for 2 weeks the first time it runs within the game, and then will resume a regular 1-week schedule for subsequent bonus events. This blew my mind, I have to say, and it is potentially the most significant and long-lasting change of the game as a whole, which has been talked about in 9.15 so far. Because honestly, Timewalking in general, I could take or leave in the form it's in now, but Mythic Plus Legion dungeons, now you have my attention. And again, we don't know how this will work yet. I find it very unlikely that any of the gear rewards will scale up to higher levels than you get in normal Timewalking dungeons, for example, and I think that's how you'd want it. I think the only real reason for running these things will be for fun's sake, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and probably slightly increased time lost badge rewards. But what if completed Legion Mythic Plus dungeons counted towards your vault total? That would make for a very entertaining 2-week event, because it would essentially double the pool of dungeons to choose from in those weeks, and that basically is just a whole lot more fun for everyone, surely. I'll be honest here, I have an absolute agenda in discussing this topic, because I have always thought Legion and BFA Mythic Plus dungeons should be a permanent fixture of the Mythic Plus season. Grinding the same 30 dungeons all expansion is better than grinding the same 10, right? Then by the end of next expansion, it will be 40 dungeons to choose from, and so on. Let's keep all that great old content in the system. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Taliesin, that is such a can of balancing worms. It's definitely more work than you think it is for devs to do. It's way more complicated than you are suggesting, and I completely agree with that. But hear me out for a second, okay? What if Mythic Plus included every Mythic Plus dungeon ever made? So every dungeon from Legion onwards. What if those legacy dungeons dropped gear that was capped at Mythic 0 levels so that you didn't have to worry about rebalancing all of that gear every expansion? And what if they didn't have seasonal affixes and didn't count towards your rating or Keystone Master progress? You might well think, well then what's the point in doing them then? And it really would just be for variety to fill out those vault slots every week. You'd be able to buy whatever legacy key you wanted from a vendor at the same level or lower to the current Shadowlands key that you have in your bag. And that's it. Sure, you'd have an achievement for completing them all at whatever levels, because of course you would, but in the long term, they are just there to give a larger pool of dungeons to Mythic Plus players to fill up their vault, because more variety is more fun. In my opinion, maybe you think it's a terrible idea. I think it would be awesome. I think Mythic Plus is one of the best things ever put into the game and really plays to a lot of WoW's biggest strengths as a game. But I think the limited number of dungeons in M+ spam has been really apparent in Shadowlands. The more the merrier, so let's have more. They're all there, right? And there we have, and there we have it. There's also Legacy Raid tuning on the horizon too, but I couldn't be bothered wasting a wish for that. And they left it as hidden away at the end there of their roadmap, but promises of more efficient in-game reporting are exciting in itself, but especially if they mean an overall stronger commitment to identifying and properly policing harmful behavior in game. Something which is understandably a pretty hot topic recently, and one that we will talk about more another day. I know it's something that a lot of devs care very passionately about, but it remains to be seen how much more effective WoW can really be on that without, hiring more GMs, which definitely isn't going to happen, is it? But honestly, just seeing all of these things in the list of 9.15 changes just feels good to me. And yeah, it is definitely easy to be cynical about whether or not these changes represent a new, more open philosophy in general when it comes to how Blizzard allows its players to interact with their game. Too little too late. Fish you, I'm done. Big fishing L, guys. You don't deserve praise for this. Do better. And that reaction from players is on Blizz to a large degree. The fact that I am genuinely surprised that they removed Conduit Energy, a system that didn't work and that everyone hated and which it wouldn't appear to hurt anyone to remove, is illustrative of how stubborn I am used to Blizz being about this stuff. It could well be that the point of no return has been reached for you, that this really is too little too late, and that is absolutely fair enough. You certainly wouldn't be alone. I could sit here reading out forum comments like those two for hours, and I agree with much of the sentiment, but I can also choose how I react to some degree. Like, I could be angry or happy about this news, and to some extent, I get to choose which of those I am. Maybe depending on what I consider to be most important, maybe just on how nice I want my day to be. And on this occasion, as a special treat, I'm going to choose to focus on how this news makes me feel good, rather than any frustrations I may have with the processes that got us here, because frankly, I deserve to feel good right now. But when paired with excited tweets from WoW devs about the changes and exchanges that I've personally had with some who suggest that in the last couple of weeks, there have been some big meetings in Team 2, where a lot was brought to the table by a group of devs who maybe didn't feel like they were being listened to with regards to this stuff, and now feels like they are maybe a little bit more. It does, in a best case scenario, suggest that this could be emblematic of a wider philosophy change in the team about how this kind of thing is done going forward. And that is undeniably incredibly optimistic on my part, but it would certainly be very good news. A common sentiment in dev tweets being that these are changes many have been pushing for internally for a while, and that there is much more to come. And at the very least, I'm suddenly very interested in keeping up to date with that PTR, which means we'll be keeping you up to date with the PTR too, as well as Wowhead, who obviously are covering every last inch of this in exquisite detail. And as always, we will be linking to our favorite and most relevant articles in the description below. So check those out for loads more details on anything that we've talked about today. Thank you, Chonky Cat, for giving us hope. Gosh, it feels like a while since we've done this, doesn't it?
It's been so long.
What with all of the drama and all of the controversy and all of the nastiness, which is still there. And like, it is a hard thing to do with this channel, is that, you know, we've had kind of 2 episodes now essentially dedicated to the troubles at Blizzard. And, you know, we made our choices with continuing covering WoW content, but with maybe a slightly different tone. I don't know. But, you know, at some point, you do have to kind of separate the good work of the employees out from all the nonsense, and we've certainly been seeing some of that this week.
What, nonsense or good work?
Both, but you know, let's stick to the good work for the time being.
Yeah.
Okay, out of the genie's lamp of 9.15 wishes fulfilled and granted, what's your highlight?
I mean, I'm really basic, so I like all of the new customization options. However, I think I have to say, just seeing other people's reactions is really making me happy right now.
Yeah.
Like, listen, like, I'm not playing loads of WoW right now. It's like really the bare minimum. But when I heard this stuff, and suddenly there's this flood of new features that people have been like asking for ages, I know it feels like a press of a button, right?
Sure.
And I know it feels like, so okay, well, let's press the give them what they want button. And I know that's not how it works. But like, when things like this happen, you do have to stop and go like, how much work does it take to make these things happen? I feel really good looking at all these things.
Are you looking forward to grinding full renown on every covenant so you can swap them depending on boss?
No, I'm never going to do it.
If anything,
Right?
I would say that actually this is like a win for the the kind of the teams and the workers who are the ones that really suffered from this. Sometimes when we talk about like the terrible things that have been happening at Blizzard, we've got like a bad habit, and it comes from a place of care, but we've got a bad habit of talking about those things as if we are the victims of them. And we're not. It's the people that work there that are.
Yeah.
And it's really awesome to see those people kind of really excited about having been able to make these changes happen, because that's definitely like a sentiment I've been getting, is that a lot of the people on this team have been kind of like pushing this for a long time, and with like the kind of change of Blizzard leadership specifically, it and also, let's not muck around, like the pressures that are obviously on the game from dropping sub numbers and things, presumably being given the green light to finally go ahead with something that feels a lot less like just basic systems changes and more like hopefully a philosophy change kind of going forward.
It kind of feels like that,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Even in the way that they kind of published all of their
Yeah,
like, goals, and
absolutely.
they're like, this is what's coming, here's what we're looking at doing next, here's literally a list of stuff. That felt like a really kind of basic comms move.
Yeah.
That was really good, and I was like, yeah, nice, that is what I want to see.
Anyway, thank you for joining us today for another weekly. It was lovely to have you here on the sofa.
Yeah, so nice. Lovely. It's been a while.
We'll get you like this episode was kind of rushed because my parents announced that they're coming to visit today.
Great.
So that's why there wasn't an Evitel section behind the
Yeah,
desk.
sorry.
But you are back and
I
ready
am.
to kind of like,
I
you could
am
have done
here.
it. But thank you for being here. It was just lovely to be here in front of
so
you again,
nice.
talking about World of Warcraft
It's been so long.
in like a nice way. If you like this video, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who give their actual real life money to make all of our videos happen, including the Final Fantasy XIV video, which will be ready next week, which will be coming out midweek next week.
Can't wait.
What do you think about that? And clashing
Can't wait.
completely with patch 9.15 PTR. Really
Yes,
glad
but-
about that. If you didn't like this video, downvote the shit out of it. And remember, my name is Jackie Wiley. No, my name is Taliesin from me.
And me, Evitel.
And the Nyrin too. And my parents.
Everyone.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
John Malkovich.
How's he doing?
I wonder what he's up to right now.
It's been a while.
I wonder if he's heard about 9.15. John, if you're watching, are you excited? I'm pretty excited. Cheerio.